Here we are, and welcome to another episode of the Friday Night Movie Podcast. Today, we are bringing back one of our all-time favorite people, someone who has inspired me for many, many years, the great Dr. Pam Gurley. Today, we are going to do something that has never been done before in the history of the Friday Night Movie Podcast, and that is we are going to discuss a book. And on top of that, we're going to discuss a book that I read every word and page of because Dr. Pam Gurley it's been out for a little while, has written this incredible book, I Am Not a Stereotype, I Am H.E.R, or I Am Her, and we want to get into it with her. We're so glad she could fit us in the crazy book tours and promotion and everything she's been doing. We're not even going to ask how my sisters are doing. I want to start with Pam. Pam, how are you? Welcome back.
I am fantastic. Thank you. I'm so happy to be back. I want to know how everybody's doing. First of all, I mean, I like,
Pam loves us.
Yeah, shy.
Say what?
Said Pam loves us.
Pam loves us. So even if Shy doesn't,
catch up because
Pam does.
I am so busy. I mean, I hardly have time to myself right now. And even when I was driving down to Atlanta, where normally I get to tune in for massive hours of Friday night movie, I had people with me who, wouldn't enjoy it as much because, I mean, you have 10 hours on the road, it's different. But I do plan to drive down to my mom, so I'll get to catch up finally. So I don't get a chance to catch up with everybody. And some of y'all don't post as much anymore. So
My sisters are slightly removed.
It's fine. I'm going to send you, you know what, Pam? I'm going to send you, when this is over, I'm going to send you some like very hilarious, adorable photos and videos of the chaos that is my life right now. But I want to actually, if it's okay, Shy, I want to start
Pam
off
asked you how you were doing.
I know, and that's what I'm saying. I actually want to start off with a bit of a confession, which is that, as listeners of the podcast know, I have ASMR, which is that I get like tingles when I hear certain sounds and noises and voices. And Pam, you give me tingles. Your voice is one of my favorite sounding voices in the world. Like if you started an ASMR channel, I would be your number one subscriber. I listen to your podcast because I love your podcast, and then I get annoyed when other people are talking because I'm like, I just want to hear Pam's voice.
Oh, that's sweet. Very sweet. You know what? You're the only one. I really hate my voice. I remember growing up, my mom used to say, you can have a job at Disney. So,
I don't know.
It's very particular.
It's such a particular voice, your cadence, your pitch. I love it. You got a great voice.
So,
I have to remind myself of that now because
you have a fan.
Yay.
So Pam, you and I go way back now. I mean, this is now, I was trying to figure out how many years it was when we started working together, but I'm guessing it was about 7 or 8 years ago, maybe 2013 okay, so 6 years ago, which is wild because in that 6 years, you and I have been we worked together and you're an amazing teammate. We went to Dubai, South Africa. I want to say we may have dropped into parts of Asia as well.
The Philippines.
And the Philippines.
Shy makes it sound like so romantic. Like I'm so jealous. I was talking to him before this morning and I was like, well, reading the book, it's just, you've told me so much about Pam over the years, but reading the book is just like peeling back so many incredible layers. And he's like, well, I traveled the world with her. And I was like, Jesus.
It didn't go back.
And when I talk about
we
Pam,
traveled the world together. We're very. I know a lot about her.
Actually,
we're close.
One of the things I'll say is that
we're very romantic.
You and I have taken over a karaoke band in the Philippines, and we've had avocado martinis in Dubai, and
that sounds disgusting.
We've spent many hours traveling.
But I feel like if Pam can make any martini look good on Instagram, it's the avocado martini.
But this book was a revelation.
She could do it.
This book was a revelation for me.
Yeah.
It caught people off guard.
This is such an honest and powerful story. It's your story, and it's told through like a very, very personal lens, and it covers an enormous amount of ground. It actually goes all the way up until around the time I feel like some of the events that you're talking about are around the time that we knew each other, which was kind of wild. But to just get us started, the themes that I picked out, tell me if we're on the right track. Love, definitions of beauty, self-worth, relationships, race, the journey of dealing with people who don't support your personal journey,
Stereotypes,
betterment, education, marriage, your philosophies, the pedestal philosophy, the unapologetic way of life. All of these things are infused in this book. Where did where did this come from? Where did the decision to write this book come from?
So I was blogging a good deal of my journey, and I was sharing it I had a blog called The Pedestal Philosophy, and I would blog on it different things, and people was like loving it. And then I pulled it down, just, and people was like, I want to hear your story. I want to hear your story. I'm like, I don't really know. But then when I look at what's out there and I'm watching TV, and the representation that I was looking for was not really there. My feelings and perspectives of how I was raised, but how it also affected me growing up. I mean, you see, I start when I was very young and just trying to fit in. And I have nieces, and they're all, I have biracial nieces, and then I have Black nieces who, are different colors. One is really, really dark. And because of her, I wanted her to understand mostly for her that she's beautiful. I don't want to know that she grew up and someone else is saying something to her that doesn't please her. I wanted her to be able to find her own voice and have her own voice and be comfortable in her own skin, because when she look at her sisters or her cousins, she's the darkest one. And that's my chocolate baby. And so I've always been so impressionable with her, just to say, I want your hair because her hair is beautiful. I'm like, I want your skin color. And because I want her to not just see me as someone very beautiful, because all my nieces and them do. They think I'm a celebrity now too, for some God knows reason.
Pam, you've been a celebrity since before you were famous.
I was gonna say,
that's how I feel.
Yeah, well, so my 10-year-old niece Googled me in her class, and and so I feel like for them, I needed them to at least at some point understand that I didn't always feel put together. I think I was trying to find myself in other situations and other people, living for other people other than living for myself. And I wanted to just not only share that, what that did to me growing up and how I excelled professionally, because I decided to ignore my personal life, the matters of the heart, because I just was like, what, as long as I'm this, I'll feel good. But I didn't really feel good to myself.
So it really is personal. Like, so you're
really personal.
The motivation is then, from what I understand, what you're saying is that then your own nieces and family will be able to turn to this as a tool to understand you and mistakes that you made and your life and learn from it.
Yeah, I didn't want them to think I was perfect either. Your nieces and nephews, they see what they want, and they see everything that I'm doing.
It's really special.
And I needed them to know I struggled to get here. I struggled through imperfections. And when I talk about the pedestal philosophy, that's when I found myself. That's when I realized, and I took that break of self-discovery, that, I was living for everyone else. I've really, truly never lived for me other than professionally. I excelled because I thought excelling would make me feel better and make me feel good and give me some identity. But it really wasn't. I had to learn how to deal with that inside. And that's what the pedestal philosophy is about, is that I was always on other people's pedestals. So everybody had all these expectations of me that I couldn't meet because they couldn't meet. So you want to hold me to a place that you can't yourself. And so I built a lot of toxic relationships about that. And in turn, I myself found toxicity in who I was and what I was really giving out to the world. So I had to do that mind shift. So I put it out there.
It's so funny. It is so bizarre to me that you talk about toxicity. We work together, and I'm going to paraphrase a little bit from your book, because you have this incredible poem that leads off the book, which is
I wanted to talk about that. I want to talk about
But
that poem a
you,
little bit.
you talk here, you say, you're doing the E in the acrostic of her, and you say, extraordinary because I'm educated, a veteran, civil servant, CEO, entrepreneur, professor, poet, writer, daughter, sister, aunt, mother, lover, and a friend. And I would say a lot of those you are to me, not every single one of those, because we are platonic friends. But you, when I met you, not only are you one of the most confident, put together, energized people, but frankly, the opposite of toxic, meaning when I feel like my relationship with you has always been one in which you are bringing out the best in the people around you, and you energize people and you make them want to do better and you learn. And now that being said, I've seen when people have crossed you too, so I know that it's not like you're the
pushover.
it's not like you're a pushover, or you're
Right.
or you're like sort of there to enlighten everybody for everybody's sake. But I do feel like at the period that I know you, you really are that kind of inspiration. How do you make the shift? Like, how do you make that shift? And do you feel that? Do you feel that energy with the people that tell you that you're inspiring them?
Um, so by the time you and I met, by the time I got, I think I want to say around 2012 was like the worst period of my life. That's when I was by myself and I chose not to date anyone. I had separated and divorced January of 2012. And whew, that was a doozy of a year learning who I was. So by the time I got to state, I knew I was like comfortable in my own skin. I knew how to bring out the best in people because I learned how to find people as human and see them as human and imperfect because I myself was not perfect. So it's really easy for me to say, okay, there's ways to handle things, but you can never get to me because I'm never really going to allow you to get to that place where I'm going to allow your day or your bad day to interfere with my energy. I mean, notice also I had the brightest office probably
it's the most
in
amazing thing. Here we are in the government, and Pam's office, top to bottom, pink. The most, incredible, top to bottom pink. It was
Yeah.
unlike anything anyone ever seen. And I'll give you a real specific example on like how that inspires someone like me. You're unapologetically yourself.
Right.
And when we knew each other, I didn't have a podcast. And as I made the transition to going out into my creative world, you are one of the people that I talk to a lot. And I was like, Pam is bringing all the pink into the office. She is an entrepreneur. She is a business. She's advising other people's businesses. She's writing. She's doing all these other things. I can do that too. So here's this book that I've now read that is, very much told as an inspiring tale for Black women. And here I am, like a Jewish white guy of privilege, and I'm like, I believe in all of the philosophy, and this is incredible, and I feel like it gives me strength as well. Which I don't know if it's supposed to, but for me, that's how I
I
feel.
think it would be ridiculous. I would hope that Pam would assume that it's ridiculous that she couldn't inspire other people as well, like yourself, Shy.
Well,
but even when you work together, like you as a person, knowing you very well because you're my brother, while you're incredibly confident and extraordinarily bright, there is an inherent, I think, apprehension and
I'll be
self-esteem
blunt.
issue.
Imposter syndrome. Pam has a whole chapter about it in the book.
Right. Yeah.
One of the things we've talked about on the podcast.
Wait, hold on. Let me just finish. Is that I just saying that you always have an incredible creative side, but maybe are more nervous about being open and honest about that in terms of your work environment. Like, because you're so professional and you focus on that. And to have someone like Pam be able to inspire you and say, no, you can do both. You don't have to be apologetic for that, I think is phenomenal.
So, yes. And one of the things we've talked about in terms of content that we love on this podcast is when somebody is telling a really, really, really specific story that you might look at and say, oh, that's a really niche story and it only speaks to one very tiny audience. But the more specific you get, the more universal that message becomes, because you're not just telling some general, self-esteem issue, something, crisis,
crisis issue.
Right. You're the more intimate and vulnerable somebody is with their storytelling, the more connected others feel to it. Like Shai said, we are not you. We have not had the same experiences as you exactly, but we've had experiences that when we read about yours, it gives that strength and inspiration to know that there's other people out there who have had something similar going on in their lives that, I don't know, that we can learn from as well, or not similar at all, but still great lessons. So that, and I want to also talk about your poem a little bit.
Okay.
So for me, when I was a teenager, I read the poem Phenomenal Woman by Maya Angelou for the first time, and it was like world changing for me. It was this shift where all of a sudden I was like, oh, wait a minute, being a woman is this phenomenal thing, and I get to be proud of that, and I get to show that off, and I don't have to apologize for it. And that, like, it truly changed something in my whole mind, body, spirit. And when I read your poem, when I was reading the book, it was that same feeling that I had when I was a teenager. And I have not had that feeling reading a poem of being like, yes, we are all of these things. She's all of these things. I get to be all of these things too. And so it was very, very moving for me. I just wanted to say,
basically, Pam, you're gonna inspire your nieces and many other people.
You don't have to worry about that. That's it. And I was wondering if you
Oh,
could talk a little bit about when you wrote that poem. How did it come to you? What was that process like?
okay. So here's the thing. The poem came before the book. I didn't even think of writing a book until I don't know, I was inspired by the poem. And oddly, let me just put this out here. Everybody needs to hear this out. I am by no means a normal poet. And I talk about that in the book. I consider myself a gifted poet because it comes to me in my sleep. I can get up and I can literally write the entire everything out. And that's how it comes to me. That's how poetry has always come to me. I have a ton of books and stuff that I've written poetry in. I have some published poetry back from, years ago that I just submitted into books that have other poetry in it. But this one, I don't know, it resonated something differently in me. And after I wrote it, and then I went back and read it, I just thought, I was moved to write. And then that's what started me actually writing my book, which took me like 3 or 4 years to even feel comfortable putting so much of myself out there, because I put a lot out there. And
I was going to ask, I was going to ask how you either, I mean, I think you can tell, like, I haven't read many celebrity memoirs besides yours. But I would imagine that a lot of them like tout being very honest and stuff. And then in the end, it's really just fluff. And then I feel like you can really tell from the language you use to your just sheer honesty. You're either in or you're out. You made the jump or you don't. And clearly you did. And once you jumped off that ledge, I'm assuming, okay, it all just came out and you just decided to go with it. But it also must have been hard to be that honest.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. After I hit the publish button and I started putting it out there, I just thought, what did I do? That was the first thing I did. What did I do? But here's the other thing I learned about transparency. No one else can say or criticize anything that I put out to the world. I put it out there. So what can you say? And I can't lie about my life. And I think for me, in order to be unapologetic, I have to be transparent. I mean, even about me, and I know Jay has a whole chapter, and people didn't even know that much about our relationship. And I told him, I said, how do you feel about this? Because what I did not want people just to see all the negative in pre-marriages. I wanted people to understand that I'm in a healthy relationship now, but I also had to allow him time to grow during our relationship. And so
it wasn't like, oh, you went through all this stuff and then magic, Prince, that's it, done.
Right, which is also a really important thing to recognize, that it's constant. You're always evolving and growing and working, and you have to work on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that was important to me to put that out there.
So I'd love to come back to the 3 husbands. That to me, again, I knew you.
I don't know when you're selling the rights to this movie, because it's good. Like this story is very meaty.
I I knew you had been married, and I knew you lived in Germany, and like a little bit about that, and we've talked about a lot of things, but not only are in each of these husbands are there some really toxic things that happen, but each one almost represents another step in the growth of the story. Like, I love the way you built one after the other.
Well,
What
I
was
got
it
a
like?
degree after each one.
What'd you say?
I said I got a degree after each.
Which is, I feel like, can't be a coincidence, right? You're like, well, now I'm smarter.
Yeah.
Now I'm more smarter. Like,
and so two questions. How what was it like revisiting those? And the second part of that question is, are those experiences always in you every day? Or you sort of feel them every day? Or did you have to go back and go to that place to think about those very difficult times?
So as I wrote, it was therapy. And I think that's where my release was, where I think I held on to it for a very long time until I had that period by myself, and I wanted people to understand what that journey really meant. In order for me to get to
right.
pedestal
Yeah.
philosophy, I had to be honest about who I was and at that time and each variation of time. And here again, I was blogging about it, so a lot of this content already was there. I just had to put it together, and and I didn't even put a lot of this stuff out there because I just wanted it to be, I wanted it to make sense. And I tell you what, sometimes when you're in those things, it just doesn't make sense. So I picked and choose the most important pieces that fit into that book. So no, and I don't live with it. I forgave myself first, and so I don't really worry about it. I mean, my ex-husband sent me an email one time not long ago and was like, "How are you?" I wrote back, "I am fantastic." Send. Because I can't allow myself to hold on to that kind of energy. That is wasted energy that I could be putting towards people that I love. So I don't harbor hard feelings. I don't even really think about it, or anything else like that. So I don't hold on to it anymore. I let all that go.
One of the most powerful lines in the book, I wrote it down in my notes, and I want, you're speaking, you spoke a lot, again, as a professional, as an academic, as someone, who is beautiful and who can be intimidating. And then you also put it in the context of challenging the stereotype of the angry Black woman. I think you did a beautiful job, pulling that stereotype apart. And there is a beautiful quote that applies to so many things, but I would love for you to expand upon it here, which is, "I cannot possibly intimidate people. People allow themselves to be
I
intimidated by
highlighted that.
me."
Wait,
Or
sorry, say that again. Say it again.
keep writing it. Keep talking. Yeah,
Sorry.
I cannot possibly intimidate people. People allow themselves to be intimidated by me or intimidated by anyone they find intimidating. And to me, this is one of the most powerful universal lines, but you were also talking about something very specific to you. Please tell us everything you can about that experience.
Just amazing. You just hit the nail on the head with that.
So, I mean, it's the truth. And when I was feeling that, it's something that's always been said, and I still hear it. "You're very intimidating," and I'm like, you control yourself, and that's basically what I was saying. You control the narrative of your life. You control the narrative of your thoughts, and if you get intimidated by someone who has more, has done more,
in what context are you hearing that? Can I ask?
Say what?
In what context are people saying that to you?
Relationships, friendships. Even if I've talked to friends and they'll say, if I walk into a room and people are looking or they're whispering or something, and I'm like, I don't really be caring. They're like, you do it to intimidate a lot of people. And I'm like, how? I don't even have to open my mouth to be intimidated.
It sounds to me like when people say that, it's like they want you to shrink yourself.
Oh, and I'm not.
And you're not doing that because you are unapologetic. And
I'm going to speak around it because I don't want to give details. I want to be respectful of our former colleagues. But I remember when we worked together, again, always beautifully dressed, always the best prepared person in every meeting. You and I have gone and presented on budget together many times. Those are tough, tough meetings. There's no one in the world I want to go into those meetings with other than you. But we've also there's one particular incident where your style of dress was brought up in front of a large group of people as possibly hurting their impression of you and not taking seriously and not realizing that you have a doctorate. And I remember hearing this and asking you afterwards, and you were as unfazed as anyone as I've ever been. Like, I get worked over much less. And so what is the process in your world of people, and that was polite, and in the book describes much less polite things. What's your process of dealing with those types of comments, situations, whether they're beauty related, education related, race related?
So one, my office has always been my runway. I love nice things, and I love nice shoes. I'm a heel girl. Second, you know what?
You have great taste in clothes. Like, why would you waste that?
I know, but I think for me, I can't subscribe to that kind of negative thoughts, because I'm a firm believer that if you are either intimidated or have an issue or feel some kind of way about me, it's a reflection of yourself. So to me, if you're looking at me and you're feeling some kind of way or any form of intimidation, just get on my level. It's not that hard. I don't wear titles on my sleeve. I don't do any of that. I'm probably one of the most humble and down to earth people that you would meet. And it's simply ask if oh, I don't like what you're wearing. Okay, well then it's not your choice. I buy my own clothes, just like you buy on yours. I think we need to learn how to suspend judgment, because there's really no such thing as normal. I love the fact that I can be unique. I know people that say, oh, I can never wear heels. Well, that's you. Or do you think, oh, wait till you get older, you're not going to be able to wear them. My mother's 60, she still wears heels. So, you can't subscribe to that kind of negativity. And I choose not to.
That's great. I like the idea that people have to kind of meet you, because I think that's where if I come back to it, I think that's where part of your inspiration comes. The folks who can take it end up rising to your level and not trying to bring you down to their level.
And I'm not doing that. I think I'd spent a good bit of my life not liking myself, hiding who I was. And I did that for a very long time. And, I was told, even when I first became a federal employee and I went to training, and this one lady told me in training, she said, you can always tell an eagle amongst a flock of geese. And she said, never let anyone dull your shine, and never let anybody take that away from you. And I've kept that, and it's resonated in me that, as I've grown in my federal career, how special and unique that, I was, because I've worked hard, not because someone gave it to me, but because I worked hard and was diligent in succeeding, not to appease other people, but just to make myself happy.
Yes. I just, sometimes, I don't know, I just had a Becky ASMR moment where I was like, yes, everything
keep talking.
Amazing. I was just like, keep going. I'll just, I'm here for this show.
Told ya.
When you are connecting with people, when you are connecting with people as you travel around the country and the world now, promoting the book, what are the kind of reactions you are getting? What are some of the most fun? What are the strangest ones? Are there any bad ones?
No bad ones yet. I do love that, for me, there's nothing bad that anybody does, but what's the transition for me is people saying, can I take a picture with you? And I'm like, oh, we're there now.
That's great.
I really do see myself as normal. I feel like I'm about impact. I don't care about being a celebrity. I feel like I'm living purposefully, because I want to change the narrative of how we as in people see one another. I think I want equality. I want, social justice, but I also want, a different society where we are very upfront and transparent and not living by what we see on television and what we see on social media or Facebook or Twitter, because that's not always real life. I post my real life out there. I'm like, hey, I got a book out there that's about my life. So, hey, I'm really out there. But for the most part, we have our younger generation thinking that everything that's on there is true. So, I mean, I've had posts where it's like I'm stressed out or I'm struggling or I'm working. I take pictures of that and I share it. I'm like, you know what? I'm not always okay. I feel like crying sometimes. I feel like I'm frustrated sometimes, and I'm going to be honest. Now, it's been a while since I felt that way, because writing, I tell you what, when you're writing a book or you're managing multiple brands and multiple companies, you become overwhelmed. And so now for me, it's more therapeutic because I have a therapist to make sure that I have some level of sanity.
I remember when I met you, you were redoing the floors in your own house because you didn't have enough projects. And you were like, I have, 2 days off for my 1,000 projects, so I'm going to refloor my house by myself. And that's normal. And I was like, holy shit. I was like, damn it, woman. I'm like barely keeping it. I'm like, oh, maybe today I'll cook something, maybe not. And I find that in and of itself, just following your Instagram is inspirational. Because one of my I just want to say one of my favorite things about following your Instagram is that you are clearly not one thing. You are teaching everybody around you. I mean, through your book as well. You don't have to be one thing. As a woman, especially, you can be many, many different things, and you can look great and have fun while you're doing it. You don't have to be like a stuffy, boring, or cold and not transparent person to be extraordinarily professional.
Actually, further on that point, there's like a lot of Instagrammers out there who are all about, the sort of therapy side of Instagram and like teaching and sharing great quotes, but that's all they show you. And to Lily's point, you share all of that, and you also share who you really, really are, which makes all of those quotes actually authentic. It's not just someone who claiming to be a guru telling me about self-love. It's someone who's showing me how they enact self-love and in very like honest ways, whether you're going out and having drinks. Like I love Lily and I talk about this regularly.
I know.
I want to go for drinks with you.
You always are drinking something so delicious looking.
Lesson to all those other Instagrammers out there. In order to be authentic, you actually have to be vulnerable and share your life with people. Anyway,
when I was in Atlanta, I played it off, I think, really well. But when I was speaking at the book tour, I was selling a hole that was there, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then I still kept talking. And then when I was getting ready to do my interview, I sat down on the couch and one whole side went down. And then, so I played it off and I was like, somebody is trying to take me out in here. And I posted it on my IGTV, and I was like, this is going to be a great blooper reel. But I don't care about that. I'm not out there to be perfect and show that I'm not human. And I'm like, hey, things happen and you just keep rolling with it. I was cute though. That's what I was like.
So you talk a lot, you talk about in the book, which is a great, this is a movie and television and pop culture podcast. And in the book, you talk a lot about the representation of women and the representation of Black women in media. You are now yourself a media figure. You talked both about negative stereotypes out there, and you talk about pushing back against those. Who are some of either the actors or maybe the characters, the fictitious characters that are out there that are those positive representations of Black women?
So
in your mind,
I love Viola Davis. I really love Tracee Ellis Ross. I follow her. She is so, and I think that's what makes me love her even more, is that she's just so authentic, even on her Instagrams and her TikToks and all of those. And I love her energy. Taraji P. Henson, and since she's went natural, and I think right now, they were during this talk that Tiffany Haddish cut all her hair off, and
I saw that
backlash, and I am furious at people just having all this negative stuff to say. And part of it is like, mind your own effing business.
Exactly.
She's really beautiful, because that representation is not really out there. People have something negative to say. And so I look at her as somebody as well that's just living in her truth. So there are a lot of great women out here who are setting the example for other Black women.
Can I ask about a specific, okay, first of all, thank you, because I already follow those actors and their work and their Instagrams, and I like having your perspective on that as well. So we have talked about, the three of us talk about representations of like Jewish people and Jewish families on television, and which ones feel authentic, which ones feel like caricatures, which ones we connect to, which ones we get kind of irritated when other people ask us about that like aren't Jewish. There's like this little bit of a,
yeah, like my big thing is I get aggravated when people ask me, oh, hello, sorry, I lost it. People will come up to me and they'll be like, "You're Jewish. I bet you love Mrs. Maisel."
Right. Yeah. That. So yeah, which happens by the way, or I've had like non-Jewish colleagues and stuff be like, "Oh my God, you remind me so much of Mrs. Maisel." I'm like, because we're the only two Jews you've ever heard of. What? Like I get, anyway. But so my very specific question is, the show, I don't know, I don't know if you watch Insecure on HBO, but I've always, one of the things that I watch it and I wonder, is this, does this feel authentic does it feel authentic to a Black woman the way that certain shows about Jewish people do to me? Like, or is it catering to me, to like a white audience, and giving me a very specific lens through which to see a Black story about women? And so I actually would just love your feedback on the show, because I enjoy the show, but I'm curious.
You're not sure if you should feel bad about enjoying it.
Kind of, or I'm not sure if I'm being told a version of the story, or if I'm being told something that actually feels, properly representative to you in particular, because you're someone that I know and whose work I also enjoy.
So I Issa Rae is another one that I really love. So, very natural and embrace a lot of things. I watch Insecure, and if you look at my past, I do think that there is a reflection of different things, but I also like that she challenges the status quo on certain things. How her discomfort with her, with friendships, with female friendships, but what I like about it is they still come back to each other. So I do think that that's one show that does have a representation of Black women in a positive light. You have a professional woman who has to deal with her own inadequacies on learning how to deal with a relationship. I can relate. And even, just dating outside your race and the discomfort behind it initially, I can relate, So to me, if I had to pick a show that really would closely show an example of some of the other side of things, I would definitely say that will be one of them. That's still very, very representational of the Black culture. Through one lens, of course, because then you do have people. I mean, you have the show like Blackish, that is a very good representation of Black people who also, from a positive side, but deal with very difficult issues. So to me, I think that that's still a great show that's representation that's for Black people.
Okay, thank you. Because we know that no show is going to be perfect and going to cover every angle and every experience. And so, like I said, if you could earlier, we can look at a very specific experience. That's extremely helpful and valid. Sorry, you can hear the baby sounds in the background. And so, thank you for your thoughts on those two different but both really great shows.
Well, I'll give you another example. Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Hands down, one of my favorite shows. Do I feel like it really catered to Black people? No, because I don't recall really seeing any Black people in there, not that I can really think of. But my sister has a license plate on the back, on her wall, that says "Ass Man." From So, but that just goes to show that things can cross over, but you don't have to feel guilty. Be like, okay, which lens am I looking at? But you look at Seinfeld, and if you compare between Insecure and Seinfeld, when you talk about culture, they're almost the same, giving you the same. They're giving you the same lens.
Right. Yeah, it's a good point. And I think for myself, it's, being conscious of where am I getting my information from? How am I learning? And Insecure is one of the places that I get my information from. So it's important to me to know, on on the scale, on whatever scale we're using, how good of a source is that for understanding a slice of Black experience, of a Black woman's experience, or culture. So
now, speaking of shows, so Pam, there's two questions I have that are related to shows.
Okay.
Number one, who is going to play you in I Am Not a Stereotype?
Her.
I Am Her.
Herself. I want to see Pam.
Oh,
I
that's
need to
true.
hear that
That's
voice
true.
on the big screen.
That's
I
true.
want Pam.
Aside, so
Pam can
okay.
play herself for sure.
All
I
right.
never thought
I
of making
think.
that a movie. I don't know.
Oh, definitely.
well, I don't know. Well, like, depends, where are we starting the story in her life? Are we
No, I
starting
mean,
the
let's.
story when she's
Hawaii.
graduating high school
No, no,
and
no.
you
Hawaii.
know,
I want to start
between
at the
that and
beginning.
the service? Are we, and when she, you know, joins up,
See,
you know?
I would love to have that threaded in like flashbacks, like you'd go back and forth, but I also want Pam now and the
Right.
entrepreneur, the
The
iconoclast.
sequel. Hey,
So then it
I'm
would
not
be
your stereotype.
Taraji. Taraji would play her now.
So you'd
For
go back
sure.
and forth.
I also
between
like
the two.
Megan Good. I think she would be a good one. Yeah, you're gonna have to do this.
Oh,
Y'all are gonna see. This is what happens when you're really transparent. My hair is slipping, and you see I'm like halfway done here. So she's gonna pick me up while I talk to you. Yeah, see, this
that
is
is
real.
okay.
Oh, I see what the part
Yeah,
that's missing.
yeah. I'm missing a whole head piece. Oh, you can do it that way.
Okay, so
When
those are
you can I just say that, and I assume it's allowed to like you said, like you were allowed to relate to Seinfeld
Yeah.
the way Becky's allowed to relate to Insecure. Like it's,
Yes.
you know, it's about a human experience, you
Yeah,
know, and if you can
definitely.
inspire people who you mean to inspire, but the idea is to share it with everybody else too. When you write about cutting your hair, and when I met you, you had probably had your short hair for probably about a year. Now that I read it in the book, and you had your natural super short curly hair, but you're beautiful. But when you write about the experience about that, Becky and I have always had long hair, and our mom did not allow us to really cut it at all when we were kids, or dye it, or touch it, or anything.
Oh,
She had a perm in the 80s, and I think she was traumatized, and so she just was like, don't mess with your hair, don't touch your hair, you'll regret it. And then I've always had long hair, and there is, I mean, like going back to the Bible, right? The fertility in a woman's worth and the hair, and you know, so many cultures make women hide their hair. There's a lot to unpack there. It is not frivolous.
that being said,
And
amongst us siblings, we make fun of each other's hair all the time, and that's never going to stop.
no, that's
Like
fine.
Becky's
But I was saying,
haircuts, when Becky gets a mullet, like we can't not joke about it.
It's growing
of
out,
course,
okay? We've been
Of
through
course,
this.
but
It's growing
but
out.
when you talk about the cutting of the short hair and that trauma, liberation, like that whole complex thing behind it, I think is extremely relatable and important. It is not a subject to be glossed over, you know. And
yeah.
I think it was one of my favorite parts of the book.
Yeah, that was a very traumatizing experience for me because I learned a lot. Nobody tells you about shrinkage, and I cut
Right.
my hair while it was straight, and then and so I had hair, and then I washed it, and I was like, wait a minute, and it was who am I looking at now? And I had to you have to learn how to love yourself in all of these different looks. Now I can't even grow my hair out. I try and then I cut it off, and I try and I keep cutting it. Now I said again here, I'm trying to grow it back out. So I try to find ways to do my hair where I'm not going to feel scissor happy. Because for some reason heat, I wash and go anyway because it's just curly, but heat and hair has just not gone really well together at all.
Well, we've got a few minutes left, and I really want to make sure we talk about what we're watching. Pam and I share a love of Bosch. So Pam, I'm going to go, let's start with you. And thank you, by the way, thank you so much for talking about the book.
Oh my God, I could talk to you for like 10 more episodes.
Thank you for having me. And just so you know, the Pedestal Philosophy is a book of its own. It's going to be coming out either by
fantastic.
the next year, but because people asked, they wanted more, and I was like, okay, and getting more. And I know people are having conversations with their kids about it, or their younger generation, and I felt like, wow, that made me feel really good. The other thing is I'm actually tying it to psychological and sociology theories to back it. So from an academic standpoint, I'm an academician, so I wanted to be able to have its place in the psychology field.
Oh,
And
that's awesome.
Amazing.
Brilliant. I cannot wait to read it and read it with my daughters. So thank you.
And then I have a book called Wine is Good, Shots is Better. It will be coming out also. It's not what you think. It's a play on words. So it's going to be something that's going to really be enlightening to people, because I'll just give an example that, there to be like a shot of reality, a shot of inspiration, a shot of friendship. It's not a shot technically. So, as I'm writing this book right now, I'm excited about putting it out, and I'm writing 2 books simultaneously, which is something I don't normally do, but I'm doing.
We can't wait for those books.
I'm sure you're also redoing like the facade or the roof of your house at the same time.
No,
I'm not surprised.
If I didn't have so much media and other stuff going on right now, I probably would. Haven't
Build
had
a deck
a lot of time. I did make a veggie garden though, so I do that. That takes a lot of
You're
time.
truly an inspiration, Pam.
So what I'm watching, I love Bosch. I'm addicted to Bosch. And I stopped watching it because I only have one more season left, and I'm like 2 into that season. I'm like, well, there's nothing really on TV, so if I go through it, I'm not going to have anything. So
and season 5 and 6 are really good. Those are my 2 favorite seasons.
I'm already in 5. I finished 5. I'm in season
5's the one with the oxy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one was amazing. Yeah, season 6 is really good too.
So I started episode 1 in season 6 and was like, this is it. If I get through this, I'm not going to have anything to watch. So other than that, I'm not really watching as much. I'm usually writing right now and trying to get a lot of stuff done. I have a few magazines that is going to be coming out, so I'm constantly doing something with that.
That's cool. Wait, so why do you love Bosch? Because Bosch is something I've been trying to get my sisters to watch, and like to me, there's a whole genre.
I would just say the only reason I would watch it is because Pam endorses it.
It's actually really, so the first episode is a little slow, but after that, it becomes so addictive. Like I watched like 2 seasons in a day. I didn't even know it was because it kept me going, but it was super slow the first time. I was like, okay, I don't think I'm gonna make it through it. But somebody told me, they was like, make it past season for the first episode, and it got really good.
Yeah, and he is Titus Welliver is amazing, and the guy who plays J. Edgar is amazing. The relationship between the 2 partners is great, and his daughter, Madison Lintz, the actress who plays his daughter, they've increased her role as the show's gone on, and she's become a great part of the show. So, they really do a good job organically.
She gets on my nerves a little bit, though.
Oh, well, she doesn't have
daughter
the best
really
judgment.
gets on my nerves. I'm like, you can write her off already, but she really does. She gets under my skin, just the hard head and just want to be too much. I don't know.
I have a whole thing that
she's very cool.
Daughters in shows are generally the worst. Like any daughter in a show, are just like they're always the worst.
Mars is all about a daughter and a dad solving mysteries.
No, that's a show about a teenage girl and her dad.
Well,
different.
I want to solve
when there's a daughter as like a secondary character, especially to some sort of detective. They're always the worst.
Yeah, exactly. So but I mean, outside of that, but it takes a while to even get to that. And I'm glad she gets herself together in season 6, because I almost just, if I can go through the TV, that's how I feel. I would just
All right, Lil, what are you watching?
Well, we're gonna start Bosch, so that's probably because Pam says she watches it, even though you've been trying to get me to watch it for a while. And we finished last night The Sinner season 3, which I don't know anyone but Shy now who watches it.
I love it, Lily. I loved season 1. It was very dark mystery, like
right. Season 3
killer,
is
like
different
murder
than
mystery.
Season 1, right? And Shy described it perfectly. It's like a mystery beach read. But season 3 is a bit more dramatic, maybe emotional. It's not as straightforward. It's a bit more complex. So I didn't like it as much as season 1 and 2, but it has Matt Bomer in it, and he was fantastic, and he was really, really good in it. And so it was like fun to watch him. And Chris Messina, who's always I love that guy. He's great. And so And then I finished The Politician season 2, which I love. I don't know, Pam, if you watch that show.
I'm gonna have to
I think
put
that's just
that,
the Politician. It's ridiculous and oversaturated, but it's fun and it's different. And I feel like it's very off. It's not often that you get something that's a little bit different on TV, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
All right, Beck, what are you watching? We want to.
All right,
Get Pam out of
Avatar
politician,
Last Airbender.
obviously, yeah. Politician season 2, and we're gonna punt this to next week because we don't have time to get into it. So you two will watch, and we'll do a whole thing. I have a whole episode planned out in my head. Old Guard with Charlie Theron on Netflix.
So
I'm not gonna say. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just saying
Okay.
I watched it, and I have a specific episode we need to do because of it. Great, that's it. Mystery. You have to tune in next week. Oh, look at that cliffhanger.
I'm watching the stuff that Lily and Becky are watching, and we also watched Kim Possible on Disney Plus with the kids, starring Sean Gambroni from the Goldbergs, like the live action version. And I just want to say it was really good. It has him and the woman who plays Sadie, who plays the woman who plays Bria B from the Goldbergs. It's the two of them. They have great chemistry. But one of the villains is played by this woman, Taylor Ortega. I'd never seen her before. Absolutely hilarious. Every line she had in that movie made me laugh out loud. Okay, Pam, where can people follow you? What are all the amazing things that you can do? People know where to follow us. I'll do that after you go to your next interview.
Okay, so I can be found on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and on TikTok at IAMDRP GURLEY. I am Dr. P. Gurley, which I also have to just shout out my 12.3 thousand followers that I got for some reason out of the blue. So, I mean,
that's amazing.
Because you're amazing. Because you're amazing.
Check me out. I am, on tour right now. California is next. I'm actually also going to have a very intimate night at a recording studio with one of the labels that I do some work for. So I'm really excited about that. And it's only going to be 8 seats available because it's going to be very limited experience. So it's a VIP experience in LA on September 10th. And then on September 12th, I will be on a book tour at the W for the Black Authors Matter book tour. So that's where you can find me right now.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Pam. We love you. You are an inspiration always.
Love you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I must be, I'm gonna have to come back so we could just talk movies.
Yeah.
That's all, during quarantine, I think that's all I really had an opportunity to do is watch movies.
I don't know. We'll have a separate pop culture app. This was the
we
book
really
app.
wanted to celebrate your book. It's so good.
Thank you. I do appreciate it. Thank you all for supporting me on my book, and I really do appreciate it. And I look forward to, sending you all this, the second and third book also.
We can't wait.
Yes.
Can't wait.
All right. You all have fun. Congratulations. I didn't even know you had the baby already till I was told you had
she's 7 months.
I know. I'm
for 7 months.
I mean, it's all fun and games until you realize you end up having to watch Kim Possible.
That's
shy.
That was cute.
Okay, well, thank you all. I'm going to go and jump.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you. Oh, she's the best.
She's the best. That was so
Oh my God, that book.
Right?
That book.
Incredible.
Oh my
We're still
God.
doing this. We're still in the show. We have to close the show.
Okay, fine. Well, I'll close the show saying that book. Go get it. Read it. It's fascinating. It's different. It's vulnerable.
It's the most raw, unfiltered personal story I've read of.
Yeah, it was like talking to someone and having.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It was as if we were having.
Life.
The way she writes is as if you're having a conversation with her, and she's one of the best people to just talk to. Like she's so. I don't know. Anyways, it really felt like you were in a conversation with her.
It's very inspirational and very educational without being hard to read. It's extremely, and not that a book needs to be easy to read.
Life stories.
But it's her talking from her voice, 100% from her voice the whole time.
And Pam doesn't pretend to, she's very honest about that. It's her and her speaking, right? She says, this is not an academic book, multiple times, but that's also what makes it really powerful.
And I feel like if you really want to feel like you're having that this is just a conversation between you and Pam, make yourself a fancy cocktail or two, sit down, and drink that cocktail while you read this book, and that is hanging out with Pam.
Yeah, it was fantastic, and that's it, guys. My streak. I can no longer walk around saying I haven't read a book since my honeymoon. I read this book cover to cover, every word.
Day.
And actually, like, I might read another book. It was kind of fun and
I
relaxing.
don't go crazy.
All right, don't get ahead of yourself now. You're getting a little cocky
Do
there.
not send in your recommendations of what I should read. I still will take that as homework. Okay. But you can order it on Amazon and lots of other places. So go to Pam's social media and figure it out. Becky, where can people follow you?
At Paper BK Princess. And although you'll be hearing this a week later, you should know that last week I tweeted something. So I'm just saying I'm on there. Once in a while I send a tweet. Felt good. It was kind of exciting.
I wish you tweeted more, you know.
I know, I think I don't tweet a lot because I'm insecure about my copy. You know.
You can just tweet with me. No one's
reading. Yeah, why don't I just text with you?
Because fair enough. All right. Well, why don't we just speak on the phone instead of do this podcast?
That's true. There should be a record.
Secret podcast and the on the air podcast.
Public record of our conversations.
Lily, where can people follow you?
On Twitter and Letterboxd, Chichi K Gomez, CHICHI K Gomez,
and
with a Z.
And you can follow me at Pancake for a Table on Twitter and Instagram, and all of the Friday Night Movie shenanigans at Fry Night Movie on Twitter and Instagram. You can also go to Friday Night Movie Pod, where we have all of our website stuff. As a reminder, we are supporting the NAACP Legal Defense Fund and the Equal Justice Initiative in our solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement. So please go check out those organizations. Our theme song is by What Does It Eat? And What Does It Eat, which is a band that I am in, has a new record out called Sidecar. You can get it on Spotify, iTunes, all the other places. And it is a tribute to 1980s and 90s TV characters. So really, it's an extension of the excitement going on this show. And with that, my sisters, it was so great doing this with you today. It was so great having Pam. Thank you, Pam, for being here. Even though she is now off doing her next interview, but thank her again. Love you guys. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
Okay, I've been brewing the biggest diarrhea for like.
Oh, okay.
I love you guys. I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
I'm like,
Bye.